We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
It's the Weiliotis podcast.
I like it.
Welcome back, everyone, to another spooktacular episode of the Weiliotis podcast. Happy to have you all here today. Before we get into it, I want to bring on my co-host, the one, the only, Mikey Wheel. How you doing, Mikey?
What's up? Just want to point out it's October, exciting. I'm a basic bitch from New England, so I've been having my pumpkin beer recently. Last
Damn
week I was
straight.
a little under the weather, so I was drinking tea, but now I'm back to my
And you got it with the rim, too. You got
Oh,
the
yeah.
cinnamon
Yeah,
sugar. You know what you're doing.
I don't really drink. Like, I'm not a guy who like comes home and is like, oh, I gotta have a Bud Light when I get home. I don't like drink when I go out, but like pumpkin season, I make it last from probably like September to like April of the next year. Like I milk
Drag
it.
that out.
I know where to. If you're looking for pumpkin anything in like April, let me know because there's still some places. But no,
You're the pumpkin guy.
I'm the pumpkin king. No,
Everyone needs a pumpkin guy.
yeah. Oh, that'd be a good. Maybe I could just post about that on social. Where to find pumpkin. No, excited to be here. Excited for this episode because we're gonna be talking about one of my favorite movies of this year. Not only favorite horror movies, just favorite movies. So I'm excited about that. As always, we have to point out that we are the Weiliotis podcast only because our last names are Wheel and Veiliotis. We have nothing to do with Ray Liotta. Our podcast just sounds like that. But in the near future, we will be doing Many Saints of Newark. I think we're gonna have a big guest, a big returning guest. So if you just go back and look at our other 13 episodes, it's you know, you can narrow it down to a few people. But yeah, super excited to be back here. And I think one nice thing that Tom and I knocked out just prepping for this episode a few minutes ago is we don't have a lot of movie news and we don't have a lot of what we've been watching news. So we are gonna make this a whole episode pretty much about the movie. Or should I say movies?
Yes, unless we somehow go into like a long tangent about different types of pumpkin beer, then that takes up like 40 minutes, but who knows?
I'm going to go Bubba and Forrest Gump on all the different pumpkin products out there.
And there are a lot. But yeah, no, I'm excited for today because Wrong Turn. Well, this year alone, I watched Wrong Turn, the 2003 one, and just the other day, I watched the new one. And they're a lot of fun, and there's a lot to talk about, you know, especially in the month of October. So, but before that, yeah, you want to jump right into maybe some movie news, see what we got going on there.
I'm down.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to prep all of my research for this episode. So I'm pulling some stuff up here right now. Oh man, these movies really get to me.
Oh yeah. Well, first off, one thing we both really want to talk about was there is a new trailer out for a new Resident Evil movie coming out in a couple of months. Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City, which is interesting because I believe this is the first live action Resident Evil movie that actually takes place within the events of the first movie. Like, this is before this total outbreak in the world and everything's gone to shit. There's still a semblance of civilization. And, you know, this has all like the original characters. I think Leon and Claire, all the kind of original characters are there.
It's the first two video games too, which is exciting.
First two video games, which I've played both of them, honestly. I don't really remember. I remember a little bit of the first one. It's just been a long time. I don't think I ever actually completed it. But the second one, for any of those who know, they came out with a remake of it, I think a year or two ago. And
I bought it. Yeah, I bought it about a half a year ago. Right now, so I know we try to stick this to TV and movies. We want to start introducing music reviews on here soon. I do want to point out I beat Far Cry 5 last week just in time for Far Cry 6. Came out yesterday, stars Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad. I think you've heard of that show, Tom. Gus and the Chicken Place. So I've been playing that, but how did I transition into that?
I don't know.
Resident Evil video games. I don't play a lot of video games, but over the last few months, got Resident Evil 2, been playing that, and then got the new Wario game for Switch, the new Pokemon Snap. and then Far Cry 6. But yeah, I'm been playing the second one, which I think is super exciting for this movie coming out. And I
I
mean,
agree.
I just have to point out the first Resident Evil movie, not the other 15, but the first Resident Evil movie. Once again, not only one of my favorite zombie movies, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. That and 28 Days Later, wildly different, very
Really,
different
the
tones.
the first one with Mia Jovovich, that's one of your favorites?
One of my like favorite movies. I mean, I remember watching that in 8th grade, and I just from start to finish absolutely loved that movie. I didn't see the last 2 or 3 Resident Evils. I've seen both Silent Hills. Saw the second one in 3D, which I do not recommend. But yeah, I'm super excited for this one. I only knew 2 of the cast members, and then I watched the trailer and realized I knew everybody in the movie. So I'm just super excited for this.
Yeah, and like I'm all for it going back to the original two because most people are still very fond of those, and the second one, like we just mentioned, is fantastic. Like the remake they put out was so good. It was really fucking scary too. I remember I was playing that. I was playing like a year ago, and it was like I was playing it at night, just fucking horrifying. Like the sound design in that game too is fucking wild. But I think, if not mistaken, I believe that the new one, it's what is it, Spencer Mansion? That's a key location in the first movie that's going to be in this movie. There's a shot of the interior and I think the exterior as well, and then Raccoon City Police Station. So like those like two kind of main areas from the first game and even the second one are going to be like prominent in here. So I'm all for it. The trailer looks pretty cool. It looks fun, like they all tend to do. They all look fucking crazy wild. I think it's kind of funny at this point. Like, you read some of the comments, people are like, oh, this looks like there's bad acting and like some of it's hokey. I'm like, that's literally every single Resident Evil movie. I mean, like even the games, like the games have like are notorious in a lot of ways for like the hokey dialogue, like very wooden kind of dialogue. So even the games themselves kind of have that to it. So
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
I'm not going into this, expecting anything other, hopefully, than just a really fun zombie movie that kind of capitalizes on what made the first 2 games really good.
I was trying to think. I remember playing Resident Evil. There was like 2 or 3 video games ago. It's the one that takes place completely in one house. And I remember playing it, and PlayStation VR had just come out, and I played it without VR, and I was like, yeah, I would never try this on VR. Like it was without VR, it was terrifying. And there's a new Resident Evil game out right now too, I think. Village, did that already come out?
I think so. I believe it did. I never got around to it. I'm so bad with video games these days.
May 7th, 2021, it came out with the real engine, RE engine. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I don't keep up either. I'm the same way. Like I love Madden. I've never watched football or played football, but I love football video games. And like I'm always a year or 2 behind. I don't watch, so I don't need like the most recent players and injuries and trades. So they'll come out with the new Madden 22 for, $70. And then I just go and buy Madden 20 for like $4.99.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm still that same way. Like, I haven't played The Last of Us 2 because I strictly don't want to until I beat The Last of Us 1. So by the time I get around to playing it again and picking it up and beating the first one, the new one's going to, like, cost nothing at that time, which is great.
True. Those are 2 games I would love to play. I've played a little bit of the first one back when my roommate was playing a couple years ago, and it was awesome. Like, I mean, Naughty Dog knows what they're doing. Some of the most cinematic games ever made. Yeah, like I'm gonna hopefully play that one day.
I know the spoilers of Last of Us 2, but at the same point, like I don't care. I asked for the spoilers, but I know it's a very theatrical, dramatic kind of movie. But this new Resident Evil, I mean, watch the trailer because it seems like they fit in every monster from the original Resident Evil franchise in one movie. This trailer, I mean, it's the zombies, then it's the dogs, then it's the monsters with the split faces and the things in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And
there's a quick shot at the end, like a really quick shot, like half a second, where there's some crazy creature with these like really weird eyes, and it's like gigantic, and it's like hugging the side of a wall.
It could be the spider. There was always a spider.
It might be, but it looked crazy.
Yeah, I
crazy,
feel like
crazy designs.
I feel like I want to watch a YouTube video like breaking down shot for shot. They did that with the new Spider-Man movie, and somebody came up with they saw Sandman somewhere in the the trailer.
Yeah,
but I'm super excited for the cast. So I knew I don't know anybody's names. Kaya Scodelario, who is in Crawl. I knew that she was in this, and then I knew Robbie Amell was in this. He's in that really great show on, what was it, Amazon Prime, called Upload, which is kind of like Black Mirror, San Junipero meets The Good Place. Very cool techie show where he dies and your conscious gets uploaded into a universe where like
Wait,
people
what show
back
is that?
Upload on Amazon Prime.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so
forgot
it
about
gets
that one.
uploaded into like a really like however rich you are and your family is, you go to a better afterlife essentially. It's super interesting. But the two of them are in it, and then you have Hannah John Common, who is in like every movie in the past 10 years. She was in Black Mirror, she was in Ready Player One, she was the bad guy in Ant-Man versus the Wasp. She's an incredible action star.
So it's
And then
kind of a cool cast. I didn't even realize that Kaya was in it from Crawl,
yeah, she's
and
the main
actually,
one.
this is her first movie since Crawl, which is cool
Yeah.
because I thought she was fantastic in that. She kind of reminded me of like honestly like an even more like badass like Emma Stone or something.
Yeah, no, she's
So it's
good.
kind of, I think because she's playing Claire, which I think is a pretty cool casting. So
And
yeah,
Robbie Amell's great. I know him, I think, from Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland, but him and his brother, they're both in a ton of stuff. They've been around forever. Of course, the page just went blank on me, but yeah, I just want to read off some of the other characters because the whole cast, as you're watching the trailer, gets more and more expansive. I think I'm most excited for Donald Logue. I mean, Grounded for Life. I mean, that guy's in pretty much everything in the last 20 years, but Grounded for Life, I grew up watching that. He was in Gotham. He was one of the main people. He's
right.
fantastic in that. I'm trying to get up the Neil McDonough, who's in a lot of things too. He's a good like action star. He's got a lot of good like one-liners and kind of sassiness. But yeah, let me see who else is in this. Avon Joe God, I'm terrible with the names of this cast. Johiga. I know him from I believe Zombieland 3. And then he was also in a TV show back in the day called like Unemployed on MTV. But it's just a great cast. I mean, it's just I'm one of the people is just listed as Zombie. But I'm excited. I'm excited for a new writer and director because Mila Jovovich and her husband just kept doing the other 12 movies together, and they just kept getting
Yeah.
worse and worse.
I mean,
and worse.
personally, I've seen 4 of his movies. Paul W.S. Anderson, his contribution to this franchise, and like I want to go back and watch them, all of them, because there's almost like a newfound like appreciation for him. I've noticed in the past couple of years, where I don't know if it's just like film Twitter just trying to be like pretentious and like being like, oh, like this, there's more to these movies than there actually is, but I just remember how like wild those movies were, even for like a kind of a bigger budget Hollywood movie. They just felt very different. So I would like to go check those out. But yeah, I'm also very excited. Again, going back to the roots of the original 2, maybe being a little more simple with the plot. Hopefully, it's more like detective-y, kind of thriller based. That'd be kind of a cool route to take. So
I remember
I'm all for it.
I remember liking the second Resident Evil mostly because of the last scene where you find out that the other guy, the kind of love interest from Resident Evil 1, was turned into the monster that she had to defeat at the end of the second one. That was a very cool twist. And then after that, I think I kind of dropped off. Like once they started cloning her and you found out by like movie 3 or 4 that it was like the 800th one.
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, the original. It's like, okay, like
Yeah.
yeah.
But no, I'm super excited for that. I'm trying to really think about other news.
I got one. So Cillian Murphy, great actor. He's been confirmed to star as J. Robert Oppenheimer in Christopher Nolan's new movie slated to come out.
Schmidt.
Jingleheimer Smith, yes, that movie's expected to come out in 2023, and he plays Oppenheimer, who real life person, was the inventor of the atomic bomb. So this is obviously Nolan going back to a more like historical narrative, which, you know, the only one he's really done, if I'm not mistaken, is Dunkirk, where it's actually like cemented in like history. It's about a historical event, so it'll be unique to see him take on again a more like historical, realistic story. And Cillian Murphy is honestly one of my favorites. So like,
I mean, 28 Days Later, he's the best.
Yeah, just talking about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I was kind of joking around with Tom here. Like, I still haven't seen the last Christopher Nolan movie, which I know I need to. But yeah.
You never saw Tenet?
You saw it, what, 14 times in theaters?
15. No.
Tom by himself kept movie theaters open throughout the first year of COVID.
Yes. You can thank me later. I saw that way more than I ever thought I would, because I saw it once and I loved it. I was like, yo, obviously it's Nolan. I got to see it again. And then I got a third time to see it because I was in Atlanta at the time and they were showing it in film, like showing like a 35 millimeter print of it. So like, it's like, okay, gotta go see it on film, obviously.
So we're seeing it in IMAX or film.
I saw it. I'm pretty sure I saw it on film, IMAX, and Dolby. I saw it in like multiple like formats. It's crazy. I mean, it's a good movie for sure.
I was joking with Tom that I imagine this is going to be like Christopher Nolan's next movie, all shot on Polaroid disposable cameras, and like, but no, I mean, I love.
He won't accept anything less. Just disposable cameras.
Interstellar. Is it called Interstellar or Interstellar?
Interstellar.
Okay, I used to use a program called Interstellar for one of my jobs, so I've always confused it. But don't pay attention to that. Interstellar is one of my favorite movies. I mean, top 3. I mean, I love that.
It's fantastic.
I love the Batman movies. I love.
Still one of my favorite theater experiences because
yeah,
it's beautiful. Yeah. The ending of that movie is beautiful.
There's nothing like that movie. I love that, and then I also, I love the Batman movies. I love everything. Dunkirk was great, and I love his brother, who with his wife took on the Westworld TV series. But no, I'm excited for this. I was almost thinking it'd be cool if Nolan went kind of Tarantino on it, where like he did a history piece but then added in some Nolan to it. So if it's like the guy who created the atomic bomb, but then there were time travelers who went back to stop it, like it'd be cool if he did the Tarantino where like the whole movie is historical and then the last 20 minutes is just like,
I mean, who knows?
Made up.
I doubt he will do anything like that, just because I don't know, Nolan seems to be the kind of director who would only go one way. Like either he's making a super crazy like sci-fi spectacle, or he's making something more realistic, kind of like Dunkirk. And not to say that like because honestly Dunkirk's top 3 Nolan for me. I love Dunkirk, and I remember seeing it for the first time and being like, yeah, it was good,
Harry decent. Styles.
Yeah, but he was great in it.
He was.
I thought he was going to be distracting, but he wasn't. And but like first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, good war movie, not bad. And the second time, I was just blown away by it. I was like, okay, I missed a lot the first time. This is an amazing war movie, and like not even just performance wise, but I just love the staging of it and everything. The set pieces are obviously incredible, to be expected with Nolan. But no, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, if anything, just for Nolan, just for Cillian Murphy, man. And also, this is going to be Nolan's first movie not with Warner Brothers, because there's been bidding wars. He's a Universal now. Nolan's with Universal, which is crazy because, like I said, all of his big movies, all the Batman movies, name any movie, it's Warner Brothers. Except, so now this is a change of pace.
What's 2.
That? Ted 2.
Is that a Warner Brothers movie?
No, I think Ted 2 is Universal.
Okay.
So now he's with Ted. Yeah. So
I'm looking at movie news right now. Of course, Jackass 4 is coming out early next year.
Oh, I've seen that trailer so many fucking times. Yeah, it's gonna be great. To me, like that movie is gonna be like a real event movie. I feel like that's gonna just be filled out for like weeks, and I hope it is
fun. Yeah.
I
can't wait. Also, I made up a great joke today. For those who don't know, I do stand up comedy for like 3 months, then I take like 2 years off, and then do it for a few more months. So I don't write much, but I came up with a great joke. I was looking at movie showtimes for this weekend. Did you know that the new James Bond movie, No Time to Die, comes in at almost 3 hours long? More like No Time to Watch It. That's my news that it's out and joke.
That also, I could see it totally being like the headline of like a critic's review.
Oh, like 50.
Yeah, No Time to Die, more like No Time to Watch because this movie's bad or something.
Everybody on Rotten Tomatoes are gonna think they came up with it. Yep.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This is exciting. Minor spoiler: why Bob Odenkirk has a cameo in Halloween Kills. This is movie news.
Oh man, I didn't want to know that.
It's exciting though. If you weren't going to see it,
but like now I'm gonna expect Bob Odenkirk because like if.
But it could also be that thing where it's like the back of his head, or like
or he's like wearing a mask, like on Halloween. Or something.
Yeah. It could
be
like anything.
Straight up. I mean, I'm gonna be happy no matter what. But if he just pops up in that movie and actually has a line, oh my god,
he's like the main character in the movie. He's just not in the trailers.
he is Michael Myers. Yeah.
Or if Michael Myers was Michael Myers and was just like, yeah, baby. And
yeah, baby, I'm going to stab you in the head, baby.
Halloween Kills was actually Austin Powers 4 this whole time. That'd be good. No, so
That'd be
that's
fun.
I'm trying to think of movie news. I think
That's all I
so
got.
Ted Lasso, the finale is tonight on Apple. And news
Oh
came
yeah,
out. I think we
I'll
talked
start
about
it
this
soon.
last week. That no, you won't. That Jason Sudeikis, Jason Sudeikis is only doing one more season due to scheduling. I joke if you're a new listener to our podcast, Tom has only watched Breaking Bad since it's come out. He's never watched another TV
Well,
show.
if you want to switch over to recent watches, because finally I've watched something other than Breaking Bad this week.
Segue. So was
Yes.
Skylar out of town? So you were like, all right, I don't want to watch Breaking Bad anymore right now.
No, he's with me. He watched it with me. Because we finally started the show Dave on FX. And yeah, I loved it. I only watched the first episode, but it was fucking hilarious. And
Brilliant show.
I had seen a clip from that episode where at the end where he's in the studio with YG and they're about to be like, get out of here, you're not a real rapper. And then he just starts rapping and then he impresses everybody. That's the one clip I saw. But no, it was a really funny episode. It establishes Dave as someone who already kind of is well known in a sense as Little Dicky, but he has his own insecurities. He's dealing with like his girlfriend and his parents.
Hi, I'm Dave. I just love the theme
I'm
song.
Dave. Oh yeah, and all the scenes in the studio are so funny. There's a great scene when like one of YG's guys comes out and assumes he's like a PA or something. He's like, hey, he's like, go get some snacks for YG. YG hungry.
You know way more people than I do, because most of the time I'm just like, ugh, who's it? It's like young Tooch, little Pop, and I'm just like,
yeah.
are these real rappers? Like,
well, I'm excited to see who else pops up in the show because I wasn't expecting YG because he's like a pretty prominent rapper these days. I haven't listened to a ton of his music. I know a couple of his songs, but like I was surprised to see him. But no, like really, really funny first episode. And of course, I watched Breaking Bad too. I can't forget that because I got to mention that in every episode. But
so
like I said, I'm going through that with with Skylar. So
you have to watch. Let me know when you get to, I believe, episode 5 of Little Dicky. It's like Emmy worthy. It's not funny. It's all about Gata's background, and it's just like a brilliant, beautiful piece of television. I mean, it's
nice. Oh yeah, I'm gonna skim through. I'm gonna really like go through this series because it's like 30-minute episodes.
You can, yeah.
And
2
I
seasons.
loved it. I was like, so I wanted to watch the second one right away, but I had stuff to do. But no, I'm gonna. Hopefully, about the next episode or two, I'll actually have maybe the first season down, so we can talk about that some more.
There's a lot to the show. I mean, there's so many different emotions and genres to it. It's really good. A lot of people playing fabricated versions of themselves, which I always love.
Oh yeah,
I've been watching most of the same shows that came back. Goldberg's is back. La Brea episode 2. A million.
Wait, can I just say for them for a sec? Goldberg's. Who's the father in that show?
Jeff Garlin.
I love Jeff Garlin, man.
Yeah,
that dude's so funny.
And what's his name? The narrator on the show.
I forget.
It's oh my god, I know him from a million things. It's Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt is the narrator in that. Yep. And then there's the new Wonder Years, which Fred Savage has a huge behind the scenes experience. He's just doing a ton of the behind the scenes, directing some of the episodes, and I think producing. So there's that. Season finale tonight of Ted Lasso, which just swept at the Emmys. What else? Oh, I think I'm gonna start this weekend. I'm gonna start Squid Game. I feel like that's right up both of our alleys. Like,
I know.
How have neither of us watched that like 6 times already?
Or even talked about it in the past 2 episodes because like because like I said, we've been recording much more regularly this past month, and like I feel like every episode we've put out, like in that week's span, like that show just gets so like exponentially more popular and well known. And like I still know nothing about it. I like literally I've seen some stills from it and I've seen people's reactions. I don't know anything about it, but I've just heard it's some weird ass Korean horror whatever spectacle. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's like Hunger Games is heavily inspired by Battle Royale, which I believe was 2 or 3 movies out of Asia. Like imagine Hunger Games as the most R-rated movie ever. Go watch Battle Royale. It seems like this is kind of like the newer one where they're returning. It's just no association, but it seems very R-rated. I think 2 of my favorite things about it is, well, I guess just kind of history and background is I just read that the creator has been working on this show for 10 years and nobody wanted it, just like Queen's Gambit, which I haven't seen yet, but like it's one of those things where it just tells you to really stick with it. He's been trying to sell this for 10 years and now it's probably going to be Netflix's most ever watched television show out of any
I think
genre.
it already is.
Like, yeah, I mean, it's.
I think not even just most watched show. I think it's Netflix is most watched anything, movie, show. Like it's just straight up just the most viewed thing. You're like, right. I'm glad you brought that up about the creator, because it is kind of inspiring. Where it's like, you might have something really good, and don't just never just throw in a creative idea away just because it's not being accepted right away. Who knows? Maybe it's just not the right time for it, but eventually it could be.
When Sylvester Stallone made Rocky, I mean, this is just the most impressive, inspiring thing ever. We talked about Cabin in the Woods in our first episode and how they wrote that movie in one weekend at a hotel. Hopefully Tom and I can meet up at a hotel and do this sometime. But no, we talked about that and just, how some people can write a movie in 48 hours. When Sylvester Stallone saw a fight of, I think, Muhammad Ali versus somebody, he was inspired to write Rocky, locked himself in a room for, I think, 24 or 48 hours, wrote Rocky, tried to sell himself as the main person. Some people wanted it, but not him as the main person. And then he wound up having to sell his dog just to, I think, get money to go out to LA or whatever it was to keep afloat. And then wound up winning an Oscar for Rocky, and then went back and bought his dog for like 5 times the cost he sold it for. Anyway, the creator of Squid Game, I was reading today, sold his laptop because he was like so broke years ago, sold his laptop, and now
he sold for like $600 or something.
Yep.
And yeah.
And now he's one of those people who, I mean, of course, Tom and I, we dream of this life where he'll never, ever in his career, ever again, have to fully pitch anything, fully fund anything himself, or ever be bored and looking for things to come his way. He will be getting screenplays delivered to his house every day. He'll be directing a Marvel movie in 2 or 3 years.
Watch, he totally will.
Anything he pitches in the future, people will be like, yeah, we don't care. Just here's the money. I mean, it's just
Colin now. I don't even know the dude's name. Haven't even seen the show, but I guarantee he's gonna be attached to a Marvel movie some way. Writing, directing, he'll be attached. I could see that.
He's just, and I wonder what his whole background is too. An interesting thing I also like to bring up, Suzanne Collins, who wrote The Hunger Games, she is one of those people who I super respect, who writes the books, they get adapted, and she co-writes the screenplays. I love somebody who's like, no, I want to also write the screenplay too. She wrote a couple episodes of Clarissa Explains It All, like back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
No way.
So it's like her career was like TV, dabbling, Melissa Joan Hart. 20 years later, writes like the most successful book franchise ever. And it's just like, I think what we're trying to say here is don't give up, because I was even reading something earlier that said something about, writing screenplays for 3 years and all of that. And I was like, hey, Tom and I only took 2 to write our first screenplay. So
True.
Stick with it. Keep up. Keep doing that. That's our inspiration. Oh, we also have to take a quick break to also talk about our sponsor. We totally forgot about that.
Oh, yes.
Weiliotis podcast, now brought to you by water. This one has flavoring in it. H2O.
Put it in a cup. You could put it in your hands. You could put it in this this sack I have that holds water. If you can even see it.
You could. You totally could.
Yeah.
Also, we have to also read the message from our sponsor, Water. Let me just see what it says here real quick. It says, water, 70% of the world, 70% of you, water. So yeah,
water.
Check out Water. Follow them on Facebook. I think you can now find it like 7-Eleven, any like grocery store. I saw some at Best Buy the other day, so it's very exciting.
Yeah, in Upper U are. I think Cumberland Farms has it now, which is cool.
They just got it. Oh my god. Yeah, that's very exciting.
Different size bottles. It's fantastic.
And when we grew up, you couldn't even find it anywhere. So it's very.
I know. I had to go down to the local stream and just stick my head in the water and
the watering hole. Yeah. Do you know that there's
old watering hole
that you can buy a thing to go camping with? There's a thing that you can grab. So you take it camping with you and you dip it into a stream and you drink it.
Life straw.
And it filters it out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I trust a Brita can filter out like from my sink, which also has some chemicals in it or whatever. But I would never go into a stream, even if you were like 100%. This filters out all the gross stuff. I'd be like, nah, that's still disgusting.
Well, life straw. Actually, I had one at one point. My sister got one for me for like my birthday, and it was awesome because it can filter like an insane like thousands of gallons of water through it, and I don't know. Well, I mean, maybe not a stream, but I've had water from straight from a river before. In like the Noke, like up in the beautiful New Hampshire forestry, like up there. You just any stream or any river. I've often like even just taken handfuls and had a sip when I'm like on a hike or something. But like that thing is cool. And actually, the cool thing about Life Straw is, I believe it's one of the only filtration companies at the moment that filters out microplastics from the water.
Okay.
Which I don't think Brita or Pure or any of those other ones do. As you can tell, I looked into this stuff a while back. Because like I'm fascinated, and I want to get eventually, like that same company makes like an actual pitcher like Brita does. I want to get one.
I'm gonna.
I already have enough microplastics in my body,
Don't we all? I'm gonna bring up another joke that I wrote recently. Haven't done it on stage yet, but it's basically the premise is like Bill Gates and his wife Melinda should have never gotten divorced because they created a company that turns shit into drinking water. This is real. So like they created in underdeveloped countries, you can take shit and filter it and make it into drinking water. Which like
Nice.
one. Do you think that like they're so passionate about it, they were the first ones to try it and we're like, nope, not quite there, or they like had somebody else do it? And my other question is now I picture them going out on dates, being on apps and stuff like that, and going on blind dates, and people are like, so tell me what you're passionate about. And they're like, turning shit into drinking water. And they're like, I think you and your ex-husband were the only people in the world who shared that same thing. I love to travel. I love movies. I love going to farms during October, and I love drinking poo, turning poo into drinking water.
Hell
Like
yeah.
7 billion people, and they managed to find the one other person who's passionate about that.
Well, I want to answer your first question in that no, I don't think they were the first to try it because they got lots of money, and I'm sure
Yep.
they paid people to test it for them. I mean, I'm sure they had it like I'm sure if they ever did like a PR thing, they'd probably be like, this is good water."
It's like Dasani, just put into a different bottle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly.
Oh, it works perfectly. But who was the person who had to test that? I mean, it's like the birdie bought jelly beans. That's a whole TV show in itself. That's what Christopher
I
Nolan should
mean,
do next is the history of the birdie bought jelly bean factory. It's who was like not dirt tasting enough, and then was just like scooping dirt into their mouth, and we're like, just dirt's enough. Like, who did that? Who did the QA for that?
Yeah, for all like when Harry Potter was huge, they had like and they still sell them. They still sell the Harry Potter jelly beans.
Yeah.
That have like some of the flavors are good, and then they have like vomit and booger and all that.
Booger, cut grass, earwax. I remember almost throwing up when I tried the vomit one. And they have like a Russian roulette game you can get where you like spin it, and like, yeah, I would not eat some of those. Yeah, they're disgusting.
I just gotta say, because we're talking about jelly beans now, the Tutti Frutti one has the dumbest name, but goddamn, the Tutti Frutti jelly beans are fucking good.
Oh yeah, those are good. Weiliotis
It's like bubblegum and cotton candy. I have no idea, but it's good.
Those are two of my favorites, and ice cream too. Are we allowed to say our podcast is sponsored by jelly beans? I don't think so, because jelly beans is one of those things that you think is like gum, and then there's a bunch of different brands. I think Jelly Bean is just one brand, right?
Well, there's Jelly Belly. Jelly Belly is
Jelly
like the
Belly.
brand.
Okay.
But jelly beans, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Who knows?
I'm gonna look it up.
Everything's fucking copyrighted at this point.
Yeah. So jelly beans are small. Jelly Belly. Okay. So I think we can now be sponsored by Jelly Beans as well. Yep.
Why not? Why the fuck not?
Water and jelly beans.
That's all you need in life. Any other shows, movies you've watched recently? I don't think, other than watching the Wrong Turn movies again, and that's all I've really watched this
We've been recording so much that I haven't been watching a lot in between, which is a good thing. I'm caught up on Billions. Damian Lewis will not be returning for the 6th and final season.
It's another one I gotta watch.
Very Andrew Lincoln. Not only did he lose his wife in the last year, unfortunately, but like Andrew Lincoln on The Walking Dead, his family lived in England. He was in Atlanta half the year filming. Damian Lewis, his family's pretty much always lived in England. He's been filming, Billions for so long, so he's not going to be in the 6th season. He might pop up, and then, but the guy who plays Junior in Newark, he's the main antagonist in the final season.
Oh, Corey Stoles?
Yeah. So that's super exciting. Seeing him in that and Newark back to back has been cool. Succession comes back in like a week, I think, a week or two. HBO, fantastic show. So there's more things I will be watching. But yeah, 911. Been watching 911 because that's back as well. There's just a lot back right now. I like it because I live in colder climate, so in the winter I just kind of I'm like a bear. I eat a lot of food and then I sleep a lot and I watch TV. I imagine they watch TV. So it's nice to have all of my shows coming back now, especially during quarantine and everything.
Right.
But yeah. So that, and then yeah.
Also, I got to mention, because we again, we like to branch out, talk about music, talk about video games. A lot of releases today, which is cool. James Blake put out his album today, which is super exciting. I'm a huge fan. I saw him live 2 weeks ago now. Amazing singer songwriter. Don Toliver, who is a singer rapper. He kind of came into prominence, I think, back in 2018 when he was on Travis Scott's Astroworld. I know when I first listened to that, I was like, who the fuck is this guy? He sounds amazing. And now he put out a new album, also super exciting. And then I think there's a couple other ones. Bad, Not Good. Do you know who those guys are?
Heard the name. I saw their name when they were playing in the city I lived in, but I don't think I know anything by them. Great name, though.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the name, and super awesome, jazz. I don't know if I'd call them jazz, but like they are, but they're like, they're new age. They do a lot of new stuff, but they've worked with numerous artists as well over the past couple of years. I love their music as well. So there's a lot of cool releases today. I'm looking forward to.
Who is the second artist that you completely made up?
Made up Don Toliver?
Yeah, Don Toliver. That's real?
Don Toliver. Amazing. Dude honestly, I could see him being the next. Not that I'm the person to say this, but like, his voice is so unique. It's so good, powerful, unique, different. I could see him becoming like the voice of like hip hop in general, R&B. Like, he just has like that. I don't know. Like I said, he's popped up on numerous Kanye songs. He's worked with Travis Scott a lot. I think this is his second or third album now, but I don't know. Super unique.
Is it cool anymore to pop up on a Kanye song? Is that still impressive?
I'd say so. I mean, like, he had a lot of features on Donda. He had Jay-Z was on the first track. You had, who else? Don Toliver was on that album. Kid Cudi, Playboi Carti, like, mad people. And who else? I don't know. A lot of people I don't even know who, like, newer people too on his album. Because that's another cool thing. I feel like every Kanye album he introduces like newer, more like people, artists that not that many people know about. Like, I remember with Life of Pablo, he put on what's his name? It's funny because nobody even really talks about him anymore. Who made that song? Panda. Remember that song? Panda.
Nope.
I got broads in Atlanta. Ooh. You
Which
know that
album?
song? What's up?
Which album?
Life of Pablo. One of the songs.
Never listened to it. I haven't listened to anything since Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Okay.
Even if his new albums were good, I would never listen to them because Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, nothing's ever going to beat that.
Yeah, that album is incredible, but I don't know. I've loved everything, even Yeezus. I like Yeezus a lot. Life of Pablo and Ye, and well, he also had that album with Kid Cudi back in 2018. He put out Ye, which was his like short solo album, and he also put out Kids See Ghosts, which was with him and Kid Cudi, which is also like really fucking good.
Is that the project name?
Kids See Ghosts. Yeah, it's the album title, and I think it's also like their collaborative name.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
that's like
sense.
just their title. So
Kid Cudi was he co-starred in the new Bill and Ted movie.
Oh, that's right. He's popping up in a lot of stuff.
He does
He's
TV and movies. He does everything now.
He was in an HBO show about, I think, a transgender student, and then he was also he's going to be in Don't Look Up, which is with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that movie has one of the most insane casts I've ever seen.
So yeah, I would just say for other things I've been watching, listening to, all of that, just to kind of wrap it up. Sometimes, as I'm like getting ready for bed, I'll turn on one of the late night shows and see what's on. I heard this musician on Late Night with Seth Meyers, if that's what it's called. Her name is Girl in Red. It's an indie pop music project of Norwegian singer, songwriter, and music producer Mary Olvin Ringheim. She rose to prominence with her homemade bedroom pop songs about romance and mental health. She's 22 years old, and the album, it's called If I Can Make It Go Quiet. The song I heard on Late Night was a song called I'll Call You Mine, and then her song Serotonin is phenomenal. 22, this isn't even their first album either, and they're just fantastic. Can't recommend the album enough. It's also just really good, like, hey, I have anxiety. You want to hear some very relatable music about anxiety?
Sounds right up my alley.
Yes, it's
I'll have to check her out. Yeah.
everybody's alley, everybody in our generation. But yeah, I think that'd be it for music. But yeah, let's kick it off. Let's get to tonight's episode. I don't even think we've really mentioned the name too much, but as you can see, Tom, his background is from what looks like the Pokemon movie, but that is actually the 2021 Wrong Turn reboot, remake, re-envisioning.
I'd say it's a reimagining because, or in a sense, because it's totally doing something different. Even we'll get to it soon, but obviously, like it starts off similar to the original, but it ends up doing its own thing. And of course, so we're talking about that the new Wrong Turn that came out this year, and then the original, the 2003, which I mean, it seems to be pretty well known within the realm of horror, because I've known about this movie for a long time. I've always like seen it pop up like randomly, but I've just never seen it until this year.
So you had never seen the original either?
Just like clips of it. Like I've seen I saw some like just some random clips online of it, but never watched the full thing until this year. But I said, I've always heard about it.
I just want to point out, did you just see my TikTok skills?
No.
Watch. Here's my impression of everybody on TikTok, all right? You introduce the new Wrong Turn and then the old one real quick. Ready? I'm going to be every TikToker ever.
You want me to introduce them?
Just say there's the new Wrong Turn and then there's the old one.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So there's the new 2021 Wrong Turn, and then there's the original 2003 Wrong Turn. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're doing now.
I'm a TikToker. Yeah. Do I get millions of dollars now for pointing? Is that essentially what TikTok is?
Yeah. It's like
you take something somebody else made and then you just point to it and call yourself an artist. That's essentially 2021.
Man, you talk too poorly of TikTok. TikTok gets a bad rap. It's good. Well, like all social media platforms, it can be misused and you can spend way too much time on it. But no, there's some good content on there.
I just have to say I was super excited for this episode. We're doing Halloween Kills next week, and then after that, I think we kind of introduced a little bit. Tom and I are both having each other at the end of the month watch an obscure, messed up movie that the other person hasn't seen yet. I'm having him watch Martyrs, the French movie, the original. He's having me watch, what's it called?
Society
from 88, 89.
89, yeah, so late 80s.
My birth year. Yeah,
nice.
So very different from what I've read on the Wikipedias. It seems like that one's a little more kitschy.
Yeah, I think you're going to be surprised no matter what, because it's a type of movie where, like, the majority of it is creepy and there's something unsettling, but it's really like the last like 15-20 minutes that it just explodes into something else.
I did not read on. I started to read about it, and hopefully this isn't it, but it seemed like kids come home and their parents are having a swingers party, and then they're all aliens as well. That's
I won't say anything because you'll see.
Okay. Yeah. All I saw was kids come home and they're it was like, what happens when you come home and your parents are not who you expect they are? So I was like, all right, it's got a little bit of like a Faculty vibe, like one of my favorite movies.
Right.
I was like, I could dig that, but no.
So I think you're gonna like it then.
I don't think I can watch Martyrs again, because between Martyrs and the original Wrong Turn, Wrong Turn of 2003, those are the two horror movies that have given me the most nightmares. And I think we wound up coming to this episode because this new Wrong Turn movie that came out this year, one of the most exciting things is it's written by the same writer of the original Wrong Turn, Ellen McElroy. I mean, it's 18 years later. And it's just kind of his new version. I think it's so cool to tap the original writer in. And, I remember waking up one day and reading on one of the horror film review sites. Remember hopping on there and seeing Wrong Turn, here's our review. And I kind of spoiled it a little bit, not too much, but I kind of spoiled it in the way that they say it's a 2-part movie and the second half is the final girl film, which is essentially very accurate. We'll get to all of that. but I wound up watching the movie on maybe a Friday and just fell in love with it. It's kind of horror, it's more thriller, it's a little bit of everything.
Oh, it's a lot of things, yeah.
And then I watched it again 2 days later, and then I watched it again the next weekend. So I mean, I think I watched it maybe January or something, but it's just like one of my favorite movies of the year. And it's like, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I've seen the original, I'm good. It's a completely different movie. So basically the two kind of premises, and just kind of go into the background and facts of the two movies, is the original Wrong Turn stars, as you can see on the poster, Elijah Dushku, who's in what's that J.J. Abrams show? Or is it J.J. Abrams? Dollhouse?
Oh, you mean Joss Whedon?
Joss Whedon, yep. She's in
Yeah.
Dollhouse. I rewatching this movie, I got super pumped because I knew she was in it. Jeremy Sisto is in it. He plays one of the main characters as well. Jeremy Sisto is one of those people you see in Everything Today, and kind of like everybody in Freaks and Geeks, which he was probably in. You go, oh wait, he's been around for like 40 years acting. I mean, I think he was in the Clueless movie. So super cool to see him in it. What else is he in? Wrong Turn, Clueless, Waitress. He was in Suburgatory with Jane Levy, which I kind of first really started to watch him from that. Emmanuel Shrikwi, who's from You Don't Mess with the Zohan, which is great. Kevin Zegers, even though he dies in the very opening, he was a big kind of, I think, like Disney star and kind of child actor. He was in Air Bud. So it's got like a really just strong cast. But
Yeah, very much like a lot of good young talent from the time, and people who are still doing a lot today. But and also I don't know if you just mentioned him, you probably did, but Desmond Harrington, who is kind of like the lead protagonist of this movie. I've also seen him in a lot of stuff. He seems, like he was probably more like he got his start in like the late 90s, but he's been I feel like he's been in a lot of stuff too.
I have two movies he's been in that we should cover on the podcast. So he was in Dexter, third season of Dexter, Gossip Girl. Have you ever seen The Hole before? I got it on like a random like 10 horror movies in one. It's a movie that stars, just the cast alone: Thora Birch, Desmond Harrington, Keira Knightley. But it's basically about these kids at a private school, and they go into a bomb shelter and they get locked in it. Very disturbing, very twisted, very big surprise ending. Phenomenal movie. He's in that. Do you know what else he's in?
No.
Ghost Ship.
Oh yeah, okay, he is in that. Okay, I do remember him in that movie.
Love that movie like so much, and it's not bad. Like I find that movie very scary.
Oh, it's great.
Really,
that'd be a great podcast episode for sure.
The scene where you find out how everybody on the boat died, and they kind of do that like Shining, where it's like the flashback intertwined with. That
scene when you see it. That messed me up as a kid. I watched that when I was really, really young, and I was just like, oh.
It was a wire, right? A wire just like decapitates everybody?
Yeah, everyone's like at like a dinner party, like dancing, and then it's just like one wire that just cuts across the room and everyone slices in half. I was just like, okay.
Which reminds me of one of the best scenes from the original Resident Evil with the laser.
Oh,
where the guy gets chopped up into 1,000 pieces. But yeah, so the original Wrong Turn came out in 2003, directed by Rob Schmidt, written by Alan McElroy, which is awesome. And so
also a big thing I got to mention, is it was produced and the effects were done by Stan Winston. Stan Winston being passed away many years ago, but super prolific VFX artist. He worked on like 6 or 7 Spielberg movies. He worked on Aliens. He worked on Jurassic Park. Like he was a big VFX guy, and he produced and did the effects for this movie as well, which stand out because like watching this movie, for some reason like I was expecting to not even like really see the hillbillies that much. I thought they were going to be like shrouded in a lot of like hoods or like be in the dark, but at a certain point you really see them, and like the makeup is really good for them. Like they're like super deformed and weird looking and incestuous kind of undertones there, but like it's looking back at it, like I learned that Stan Winston worked on this afterwards, and I was like, okay, that makes more sense now.
Well, that's cool. So I mean, it's once again, like we talked about, wildly different movies. I guess to kind of describe them, they're both about Wrong Turn. They have that kind of joyride presence to it, where it's something that any of us could have gotten caught up in. Joyride, they talk to somebody on a ham radio.
Well, I gotta say, when you first told me about you're like, hey, you should watch Wrong Turn. We should. I thought it was jarring. I'm like, oh, the movie with Paul Walker. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh wait, no, those are different movies. But
Lee Sebesky and who is it? Steve Zahn, right?
Steve Zahn. I love Steve Zahn.
Yeah.
And they yeah. So I thought that's what this movie was when I first watched it. But like, okay, no, it's not with Paul Walker, but
can I bring
similarities for sure.
Can I bring up, and hopefully Tom and I will get to the technology. I mean, we can do it now, but I don't know if we'll do it. We'll post it on our social media. One of my most viewed, and I believe my most viewed YouTube video is a fan-made trailer to Joyride 4. And I've seen the first 3. I made a trailer using only clips from Vacation, where I put Randy Quaid as the bad guy. And like it has 40,000 views on it. I made an iMovie in like 20 minutes. That is how you get big on YouTube. Whatever, is you just take something else and make a fake trailer out of it. I have so many comments on it that are like, fuck you, bad word, inappropriate word, like this isn't real. I've been so excited for a 4th one. We'll post it on our social. But anyway, yeah. So Wrong Turn is you know, you have the guy Desmond. He's I think he's in med school. He's going to an interview and he's driving to, I believe, Raleigh, and he takes some back roads in West Virginia, and then he winds up hitting the back of the car of Jeremy Sisto, Elijah Dushku, and all them. And she had just gotten broken up. Her boyfriend just broke up with her. Friends were taking her out, and they drove over some wire on the road, and they wind up in the back alley of West Virginia. You want to just talk about that movie first?
Yeah, so you know, and that's the thing with this episode. We're gonna kind of talk about them individually, but mostly like compare and contrast because they obviously share the same name, same writers, and all. But yeah, so yeah, we can definitely start with the original one, and yeah, what I like about it overall is that it is a very kind of like straightforward, like and well structured, you know, Lost in the Woods horror movie, like. And it's cool because like I always love this too, and this has been like, again, we talked about Cabin in the Woods on our first episode. There's a part in this movie where Chris, that's who Desmond plays, Chris, you know, he stops at a gas station, this like super rundown gas station, which is, I swear to God, that's probably what they based that scene off of in Cabin in the Woods, where you stop off old, antiquated, dilapidated place, and there's like one dude there who's been there forever, and he's like, you don't want to go up there.
Yep, the stereotypical trope.
Yeah, the trope of having the old timey town guy in the town who knows what's going on. He sees a bunch of young kids, tells them to turn around. So like it has that element to it, and which it, you know, and it does in the new one as well. But it sets up. I think this movie really establishes that like that tone very well. Where you're like, yeah, we're just in the woods. We're in the deep, you know, woods of Virginia, South Carolina, whatever, and like, you know, it's going to be pretty hard to to find their way out. But once
scary. I was just gonna say scary scenes too, where they get to higher ground and they try to look for like a road or civilization, and they're literally in the middle of. I mean, it's very scary when you get to that part of like the movie where they are where nobody will ever find them or hear them scream. They are so far out of civilization.
And what's crazy? Oh, sorry. No, you can keep going.
No, I was just gonna say, just to set up the beginning, what I loved about this is the beginning of the movie. They talk a lot about, I guess, in the credits of the movie, they have newspaper articles. One about like hundreds of missing people have gone missing in the backwoods here, and then it also has all of the kind of, I guess, clippings, although I don't know if it's newspaper, but just the history of who these people are. I think Three Finger is one of them.
Three Finger, yeah.
Three Finger. There's names for all of the people, but basically this is not a Deliverance. This is not a movie where it's just backwoods people. This is a movie where basically you've taken incestuous people over centuries and centuries and centuries. It's almost like The Descent, where like those creatures were underground so long that they learned how to like see in the dark and survive in the dark. Like this is essentially inbred over centuries, and they somehow become these super strong, super like almost invincible, destructive,
yeah, like, super agile. Like they,
yeah,
you know,
they don't die.
They have like the marksmanship or whatever you call it of like fucking Hawkeye. You know, like literally
they do. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
it's
point.
Like,
yeah.
It's wild. And I was gonna say, what you just mentioned, how there's that scene when they look out and they're like, okay, we're really lost. That is very scary, and that's always going to be scary to me, even as someone who goes out into the woods and hikes a lot. But that reminded me, like, literally, I just had a fucking That's So Raven moment. Like, that reminded me of back when I was living in Georgia. I was doing security, and I remember one day I went, like, it was like somewhere way south of Atlanta. We were in the in the boonies, like we were way out there, and I literally saw on Google Maps a shortcut like through like off trail, and I was like, I'm gonna take it.
Nope.
And it was also downpouring, and it was also like early. It was like 5 a.m. I was there for a really early shift, and it was so scary, and like it like never ended, and like I lost connection with Google, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna turn around, and like looking back, I'm like, that literally felt like a wrong turn moment, like
Good thing
to
you
a
hadn't
T.
seen the movie yet. Yeah,
I know, but like I was getting scared because it was just so dark. It was raining so hard out, and I turned around. I went out. I found the place I was supposed to go to, but I was like, why did Google want me to go this way? Like it was so, like it was not a shortcut. It was just scary. It was just really fucking scary.
On 911, the TV show on Fox, everybody was driving into the ocean because their GPS was I think we talked about this last episode, was taken over by cyber terrorists who was rerouting them into the ocean.
Oh,
that would be an interesting Wrong Turn sequel where like they're kind of like cyber geniuses and they draw people into the middle of the woods just by, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
They capture somebody who's a cyber person. But yeah, I think what you're saying too is 100% accurate about like, I think that's the difference between you and I is these movies made me never want to go in the woods, and I didn't ever go in the woods again. I mean, I grew up in a super tiny town in New Hampshire, and the only thing to do for fun was go out in the woods. So like I would have friends over, but what do you guys want to do? Let's go walk 6 miles in the woods because there's nothing to do. If you wanted to party in high school, you had to go out in the woods and party and all of that. And I mean, yeah, I think that's why these movies mess with me so much, is because it's not real. It's not really real. But the thing is like it's in our own backyard. I didn't grow up in Chicago or, New York City or anything like that. I mean, these people could be living in the backwoods somewhere in New Hampshire too.
Oh yeah, I mean, because we both grew up in small towns, and I've done a lot of traveling these past couple years too. And, like, especially in the days where I have driven from Massachusetts to Atlanta, vice versa. Like once you're in Virginia, like North Carolina, like those states. Yeah. I mean, granted, being on the interstate, but you look out and you just see just like mountains and vast acreage of land. You're like, yo, there's got to be some weird shit going on in there, like somewhere. There's got to be something going on,
and we'll never know about it. So I think we've also talked in this podcast, and this got me excited in the movie. We've talked about how we really like in movies where people are set in the same universe as other movies. So, say for example, in the Avengers, they reference Boy Meets World or whatever. I love that part about this is one of the characters references Deliverance in Wrong Turn. And Wrong Turn is kind of a re-envisioning, a kind of a newer version of Deliverance with a little bit of extra horror on it and everything else. But I think that it was very interesting. I like that line a lot. I forget the exact line, but he's like, these are the Deliverance kinds of woods. So I thought that was really cool to kind of like reference that and bring that up. And I mean, yeah, it's a very different movie. You were talking about how he goes to the gas station and he winds up reading the map, and that's what tells him to go off the course. That's what I loved about the ending of this movie is Desmond and Elijah are the only two survivors. And they, before getting out into the city and finding salvation and getting his foot all healed up, they drive first to the gas station and he tears down the map so nobody else would take the back roads. Unfortunately, they did wind up taking the back roads because, and I know you haven't seen them like I have, they wound up making a Wrong Turn Dead End in 2007, Wrong Turn Left for Dead in 2009, Wrong Turn 4 Bloody Beginnings in 2011, Wrong Turn 5 Bloodlines in 2012, and then a reboot, Wrong Turn 6 Last Resort. And I mean, if you go on YouTube, you'll find fan-made films too, where like, I remember watching one for like a half an hour and then I realized like, it's not like a Hollywood movie. And I will tell you this, I was just like with Martyrs that I'm going to be watching, I think, for this podcast. I did not want to watch the original Wrong Turn because when I was in college, I had a dream. I woke up, my friend Haley, I woke up from a dream or something, and we met up, went to class or whatever, and she was like, you seem quiet today. And I was like, I had a wrong turn nightmare, and I didn't talk for the rest of the day. So if I'm somebody who talks a lot and you're annoyed by me talking, give me a wrong turn nightmare essentially, because like that whole next day, I mean, it wasn't like I watched Cloverfield again the other day. It wasn't like Cloverfield. It wasn't anything like that. It was a very realistic dream of just being lost in the woods, and it's just very, very scary to me, that kind of thing. But yeah, so there's a bunch of wrong turns. I think I'm one of the few people who's seen all of them. I've kept up with them. This original one is very twisted, and gory and all of that. But I now remember that the sequels get way more gory and fucked up and twisted. And I think it's that kind of like, the less Hollywood has a hand in something, the more that they can get away with. Like this movie
Yes.
had a big theatrical release. This movie, let's see what this movie did. So this movie was a $12 million budget and a $28 million box office success. So, you can't do that much twisted stuff and have it be in theaters, at least not back in 2003. But the sequels that are all straight to DVD, video on demand.
Oh yeah, because there's less like overhead. Like, when you have, like, for instance, like if you're getting picked up by a distributor, like I don't know who even picked up Wrong Turn. I'm sure it was like, I'm gonna look it up right now. Who distributed Wrong Turn?
Constantine Film, Summit Entertainment,
All right,
Regency
Summit.
Enterprises, 20th
Or-
Century Fox.
20th Century Fox. So like
Yep.
when you're picked up by that, there's so many more people you gotta like, voices saying like, oh, we just picked this up. We can't really put out this scene. That scene might be too violent. And I'm pretty sure that happened with this movie too. I think there's some history about it almost getting an NC-17 rating.
Really?
Which
Yeah.
looking back, I mean, yeah, you're right. The movie is brutal. It is twisted. There are some really great scenes in it, and I will say I like how it doesn't take too long for shit to happen, which is because one thing that kind of annoys me with like these more straightforward horror movies, or I wouldn't call it slasher by any means, but one movie where people are kind of being hunted. I hate when it takes like 50, like almost like an hour for things to get rolling. This movie, I feel like it's like 20 minutes and already there's shit going wrong, and characters are getting picked off one by one. There's a lot of really great set pieces in the original too. One of my favorites I was talking about with Mikey was like high up in the trees. There's a scene where they go up into this really cool tree house. The hillbillies start burning it down. They jump out of it into the trees, and then they're literally like maneuvering like up like hundreds, like 100 feet in the air, like even more, just like maneuvering, trying to cross branches while they're trying to chase him on the ground. And one of the other guys, I forget his name. There's One Eye. That's one of the guys' names. Is One Eye.
Yep.
You said Three Finger and Sawtooth.
Three Finger and Sawtooth, the family.
I forget which one it was, but one of the guys climbs up the tree, and it's just a cool set piece. I mean, you can kind of tell for the most part that they're like on a sound stage, but like that's kind of what makes it fun too. Like it just has this, like the moon is just like the light's just like shining through all the branches.
It's tense. It's a very
super
tense scene
tense.
because like you're like, all right, if morning comes, they're going to still be waiting for us on the ground, and they're going to see us even better. And it was kind of almost like Avatar, the kind of like climbing through the trees and all of that. So I thought it was super, super interesting. But that scene was super tense. I mean, it's the last 20 minutes of the movie. Basically, Desmond and Eliza just kind of scaling the trees and trying to fight off these people. And I mean, it's one of those things where these people know the woods better than them. But like, if you're 100 yards out, they're going to hit you with an arrow. I mean, like these people, like you said, are like Hawkeye. I mean, they live their whole life. And not, I mean, I wouldn't say they live their whole life hunting deer. They're cannibals. So they spend their whole life hunting people. I mean, that's one of the scariest scenes in more of the beginning. The main cast goes to the house to try to get a phone and take a piss. They start finding the body parts and all of that. And then as they escape out of the house right before the three people come back, they wind up getting lost in a car graveyard. And I think one of the twisted things about this, because we talked about Krampus and how Krampus doesn't technically kill the kids. Like, like you see the kids disappear, but they're not actually killed. This movie has a ton of dolls in it, a ton of cars that are broken down, and there's dolls and little dresses. I mean, like, this movie does not hold back in that sense.
There's a great scene, I'm pretty sure, where there's like a close up of a window, and you're right, you see a character might even react to it. They might even look at that, and that's when they realize, like, okay, these are all the cars that got broke down, and they just store them here. And you're right, that's just good filmmaking. Like when you just show a teddy bear or something, and you're like, okay, that's all you need to know, that they arguably killed some kids, or like that unfortunately passed their way.
And that reminds me, film tip of the day: show, don't tell. So I mean, I think the opening of the movie, where they show all of the newspaper articles and the history, like that's a great setup. And gives you the whole setup before the movie starts.
Yeah,
But I
it's a little
think
cliched at this point, but you're right. It's a quick way to just be like, there's some shit
here you
going
go.
down.
Yeah, now
Yeah,
you're
and
caught
here you
up.
go. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the opening scene of the movie, it's a boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're rock climbing, and they wind up getting killed, and like then later on, I like that part a lot. Later on in the car graveyard, you see their rope with the blood on it, so like it's a quick callback to they've already brought the car back there, they've already done that. But it's a very very twisted movie. A lot of the deaths are very quick and very in the beginning. I didn't remember who lived and who died. And like any other movie too, at the very end, kind of during the post credits, a cop shows up, sees the whole house burned down with 3 bad guys in it, and then of course one of them comes and acts him up, and that's how all of these movies end. Is
Oh
you know,
yeah.
it's always a post credit where, and I mean it's one of those things too. I've always said that if I were in a scenario like this, and like I mean you watch these movies where like Michael Myers is coming after you, and they go and they punch Mike. This would be cool if this were in 3D. They punch Michael Myers, and he goes and then they go run, and it's like he's gonna get up and catch up to you, like cut off his fingers, like make sure that he's dead, make sure
Oh
he
yeah.
can't do anything. Like so in these movies, they don't realize that like they blew up the house, and all of these creatures were just like, no, we're good. We're gonna make 5 more of these movies. I mean, it's
Yeah, and like that's a good point though, because I just thought of another movie. What is it? Human Centipede. Where at the end of that movie, they take down the doctor at the end. They like stab him in the foot, and then they crawl away because they're all attached to each other's assholes or whatever. But like, like
to put it plainly.
yeah, I mean, everyone listening to this right now knows like what that movie's about. But when that happened, I remember my friends and I were just like, okay, now stab him in the heart, like really like get him. And they just stab him in the foot, and then we're like, all right, watch, he's gonna get up later, and that's what he does. He gets up later and stops him. Now, granted, like, yeah, if you're in a situation like that, I mean, you're moving pretty fast. I don't think I get it, but it's like
when you're attached to someone's asshole,
yeah, you're not thinking too straight. But like, you're right. There's so many examples in horror movies where like you're right, they punch him. Or actually, what's funny? Not the greatest movie by any means, but Paul Blart Mall Cop. There's a scene in that, and they kind of make fun of it. I don't know if they're deliberately making fun of like horror movies, but like Paul Blart, he like takes hot sauce and he like shoots it into the guy's eye. And he's like, oh, I'm down, and everyone's like, oh, here we go, like we got him. And then he's like, gets out of his eye, and he's like, and he pulls out his gun, and I'm like, so like they had this whole chance to like get on top of him and take him down, but they didn't. So it's like you're right. There's so many examples like that in these kind of movies.
I want to say the Weiliotis podcast is the only podcast that references Paul Blart Mall Cop. We should do those 2 movies and observe and report for an episode.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Just talk about Mall Cop movies. I will say that it's great how in the past 2 minutes I referenced both Human Centipede and Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Very similar movies,
and somehow made them tie into Wrong Turn.
I think I would say this too is the only thing scary about Paul Blart Mall Cop were the reviews.
Oh, true.
Tom's gonna add crickets into the episode later. Do you remember the exact ending of Human Centipede? 'Cause it's one of the worst endings ever. Okay, ready? So the cops show up. The cops have a shootout with the doctor. They all die and fall into the pool, I believe. The Asian guy who's in the front of the centipede, the second and third Human Centipede are just torture porn movies. Like, they're just shock value. There's nothing else to them. The first movie I actually really enjoyed. And in the first one, the Asian guy who's in the front grabs like a broken bottle. And he has this whole dialogue where he says, my whole life I've been treated like an insect. Everybody has always walked over me. I've always just kind of been in the shadows. Nobody's ever paid attention to me, and I've been there. I'm not going to let you be, I'm not going to let you treat me that way. And he slits his throat and kills himself. And then the woman in the back, I believe, dies of some illness and disease from everything. And then at the very end of the movie, the 2 cops are dead, the doctor's dead, the woman in the back is dead, and the guy in the front is dead. And the only person who survives it is the woman in the middle. And she's just in the house attached to 2 people.
I remember that now. Very vividly.
Yeah.
Too vividly.
That's an ending. But
it's almost like a Saw ending, kind of. But I like to bring it back now to Wrong Turn again. This is a cool movie. And like I said, I appreciate just how straightforward it is. It's a very unpretentious horror movie.
Hour and 20-minute movie. It really gets into it, like Tom said. And it's not one of those movies where the opening scene there's a kill and then it's like 45 minutes of getting to know the characters. There's just like half the
Yeah,
cast dies in the first 20 minutes, and you're just like, oh, okay, this
yeah,
movie doesn't hold back.
you're really shot right into it, and that's kind of also how I feel about the new one too. And kind of segue into that one, I I didn't know anything about it. Obviously, Mikey's good about that. You didn't tell me, literally, you didn't tell me anything about the new one. I didn't read into it, and I was very pleasantly surprised because, as I was saying earlier, the first 40 minutes or so feel pretty similar. I mentioned to you in a text, it felt like a spiritual successor to Wrong Turn. It was like, okay, you have a group of kids who are lost in the woods. Something really bad happens. They're trying to get out, and I'm like, okay, this is following a similar procedural thing. I'm like, is it going to be? I'm like, are we just going to have these kind of like cannibal hillbillies again? And then when you really figure out what's going on, the movie takes such a sudden turn, and it becomes so many different things. Like I compared this movie to being like, it's almost like the original Wrong Turn mixed with Taken, mixed with Alien, mixed with Midsummer. Like it just feels like a lot of different movies, and mostly in a good way too.
What was the Alien? Because I haven't seen the Alien movie in forever. What was the Aliens?
Well, actually, Alien. So James Cameron's Alien. So Newt, the little girl in that movie that not Ridley Scott, that Ripley finds. She's like the last remaining survivor, and that reminded me of the little girl in this movie because Ruthie, because Ruthie's just kind of there. And even at the end, they're together again. So it's like even her little relationship with the main girl kind of reminded me of that. So like there's a lot going on, but I'm happy about that though. I'm happy that they took such a different route with this. And, even having the same writer, it seems like he was very much like, let's try something different here. And
filmed in Ohio. Interesting.
And all filmed in Ohio. True.
So this movie, let's see what you got for this. Directed by Mike P. Nelson, written by the original Alan McElroy. Hour 109 minutes. So it's a longer movie. It's literally a 2-part movie. I mean, I don't even want to talk about it that much because it's so newer. I don't even want to give everything away, but we probably will because that's what we do on this podcast. It's a 2-part movie. Everybody dies in the first half of the movie, and the second half of the movie is her father. So for a cast, you have Charlotte Vega, who's the main character, Aidan Bradley, Emma Dumont, Dylan McTee, Daisy Head, Billy Sage, Matthew Modine. Basically, it's a pretty big cast. I remember it got delayed a little bit because of COVID. It was supposed to come out a little bit earlier. Saban Films released it. They're behind everything under the sun right now, of course. Saban Films literally does everything.
Oh yeah.
And then so basically, this movie, it's I think they're not college students. They're probably in their late 20s. They're all like very professionals with good jobs, like app developers.
Okay, you're right. So they're not college kids. Maybe they're like, maybe like mid-20s.
Urban planners and all of that. But basically they wind up going to Virginia. And this one is a little more direct that it's Appalachian Trail. They wind up going in the Appalachian Trail. Everybody in town tells them not to stray off the trail, and immediately they stray off the trail. And what did you think of the first death in this movie? I think what else I liked about this movie is that like when their car breaks down, you see from the point of view of somebody in the woods, like kind of watching them or whatever. But I think what I like about this movie is there are no kills in the opening. There's no setup to who the bad guys are because they're not really bad guys. That's the cool twist about this movie. If you haven't seen it, just shut off the podcast now. But it's kind of like you watch The Walking Dead, and by season 4 or 5, 6, people go, "Who are the bad guys? Are Rick and those people the bad guys?" And we just think they're the good guys because we've been following them. That's what this movie really does. It's kind of like an anti-hero movie. You're like, is Venom good or is Venom bad? I don't know. This movie is very much that. So basically, they go out in the Appalachian Trail, and they're filming. I mean, that first scene with the first but anyway, there's no death in the beginning because this movie doesn't set up the people in the woods as killers because they're not really killers. But basically, the young kids, they go out in the woods and they're filming it, going off of the trail, and all of a sudden a gigantic tree comes barreling down the hill and winds up knocking all of them down, and then one of them gets up and sees his boyfriend has just been completely mangled by a tree. I mean, just like...
Oh, yeah, and it's horrifying. Like, because I will say, like, the effects are pretty good. Like, when you first see it, it looks pretty convincing, and it's a cool, like, set piece where they're all running, and it's very chaotic. You don't know, like, how close the tree is to some of the characters. And then, then then you see him die, and like
very
you don't see,
disturbing. Yeah,
it's cool because you don't see the impact, you hear the sound, and I think it cuts to a shot like birds flying away or something, like once it hits the trees. But when they actually show his face, yeah, it is like pressed and his jaw is out of his face is so mangled, and it looks great. Like it looks like it was all practical, and I was like, right when I saw that, I'm like, okay, this movie's not playing around. Like they're not going for just CGI gore. They're not just gonna they're not gonna not show you stuff. They're like showing you head on. Like
I gets right into it. And I think one of the like, so basically the movie, after that, they're out in the woods, they're trying to get out of the woods. And then one of them falls into a bear trap. He winds up getting dragged underground. And then the people behind Tom, they're, what are they called in this? They're called the Foundation. So basically the people live off of the trail. Basically in like the 1800s, they wound up being like, you know what, we want old America or whatever it is,
because this was dated, so they find a tombstone that's pre-Civil War. It's like 1859, so it kind of sets, you're right, it kind of sets it up as like this is like they're like the original family or whoever it was. These are all descendants from like those people essentially.
They basically were like, you know what, we're gonna live off of the grid and live off the grid forever. We're gonna hunt food, we're gonna build bear traps, and they're not cannibals in this, they're not inbred, they're just very, very normal, like good looking, just everyday people. I think they kind of come down to the town, like the Ruthie and her sister go down to the town when they need to or whatever. And the main character even meets Ruthie and her sister while she's out on a walk. But basically, it's just one of those wrong place, wrong time kind of movies. Wrong turn, wrong place, wrong time. Is while the guy gets dragged under into the bear trap, you later on see three of the characters very much like the original Wrong Turn and the other Wrong Turn movies. There's always a scene where they're looking into a house or looking through the trees and they're seeing one of their friends getting eaten or slaughtered or whatever. In this movie, they see their friend getting carried on a giant wooden stump hanging from rope. It looks like he's about to go get cooked like a pig, roasted. And they wind up going up to the people and they kill them because they think that they're taking his friend to go kill him. And it turns out that they just found him in the bear trap and they wound up using their device to transport him. And they were just going to bring him down to the road in town and drop him off and let him be on his way. But then it turns out that because they murdered one of these people, now it's a war between the Foundation and between the civilized.
Yeah, and this is when you finally realize that you're right. It's not just some crazed hillbillies in the woods and they're gonna kill everybody. You learn like, okay, there's this place called the Foundation. It's literally like an off the grid civilization, and they just don't want anyone to impede upon their place. Like, and obviously, like they're gonna probably kill or turn around anyone that does show up. But in this case, it's Adam. Yeah, so Adam's the one who was like hogtied and everything. And while they're arguing with the other friends, he picks up a big piece of like a branch and he just bashes the dude's head in, like absolutely just bashes it in. And again, it's cool because at this part, one of the characters is questioning it. She's like, "Oh, like you just killed the man. Like we could go to jail. All this could happen." And I was like, "Well, I mean, these guys were gonna kill you. I mean, it only makes sense. This is like, it seems reasonable that he would do something like this, but." You learn again that's when you learn about everything going on within the Foundation, and then it unfolds into something so much different. And I liked it because again, like rather than just having this like this mysterious the civilization, you don't really know much about them. You learn that like you kind of learn what they're trying to do, and there is some sense of like, okay, like maybe they're kind of in the right, like about like trying to like bring them to court, trying to make them atone for their sins.
They have their own judicial system up
there. Their own judicial system. They have
their
own
food, urban planning and their own farming and cropping. And I think
their own council, like all of that.
I almost think the kind of comparison here is you've seen Cannibal Holocaust, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Cannibal Holocaust is one of the most banned movies in the world. It's not as graphic these days. It came out like in the 60s, but basically.
No, 80. Well, it was 1980. And it also, I mean, you're right, not as graphic, but I mean, there's some legitimate like animal deaths in that movie that are
people think it's a snuff film. Like the animal deaths in the movies
like
are
there's
intense.
there's a little pig that gets shot in the head, and there's a turtle that they just absolutely fucking like rip
Spider,
open
turtle.
Yeah.
Even some of the human deaths they think were real. But in that movie, it kind of what I really appreciate about that movie, and I don't want to spoil it, is that it really kind of pits it between like who are the more civilized, the people coming from New York City and going to the Amazon with their cell phones and their taxes and this, or is it the people who live in the Amazon and have their own? I think that that's kind of what this movie does too, is that you think that these people living off the grid are these uncivilized people who don't live by any rules. They live by their own rules, they do their own things, and they're extremely civilized. And that's where the whole movie becomes the final girl film. Is Matthew Modine plays Scott, who's the main character's father. Her name's Jen. He's remarried. He has a new wife and a couple younger kids. And Jen is kind of like distance herself from that part of the family, and he just basically makes it a mission himself to go out and find his daughter, who he doesn't hear back from. And there's the scene with Tim DeZarn, who plays Nate Rhodes. He's the guy from Cabin in the Woods who does the
Yes,
you don't
I'm
want to
so
go
happy
up there.
he
Yep.
was in this.
If you Google, one of the things about Wrong Turn is that like Wrong Turn and Cabin in the Woods are set in the same universe or whatever. But anyway, the dad winds up running into him and other people in town, and they beat the shit out of him, and they're like, we don't want you outsiders here. And you find out later that the only reason that they beat the dad up was so he wouldn't go on the Appalachian Trail and get himself killed. Like, they were protecting him. There's so many twists to this movie. There's the twist of the people up in the mountains not being killers. There's the twists of the people in town who are these stereotypical, like spitting and like,
Yeah.
like they're all like they're just who they are, that's how they live, but they're also like very nice. They're like, can we give you a tour of the town? And like, I don't know how sincere that was, but it's just super interesting. And it very much reminds me of the show with Ryan Hurst, Outsiders, where it's very, very similar to this movie, where people live up on the mountain and the people in town live in the town, and they know not to go near each other and they keep their distance. And this movie is kind of the blending of those two groups of people.
And like I mentioned, the numerous twists in this movie, because in my opinion, they're almost like they're playing upon your expectations, and they certainly did for me. Because again, like first 30 minutes or so, I'm like, yeah, this is pretty good. I'm like, but it is kind of like just kind of rehashing Wrong Turn, and then everything that you thought was happening ends up being something different. So your expectations are kind of challenged a little bit. Like I said, you learn that those two guys that hogtied Adam were in fact just trying to help him. And you're right that they beat up Matthew Modine's character just so he wouldn't go back on the trail and potentially die. And they're always throwing this stuff at you, which I think is such a huge, like, it's smart. It's smart for like because to just kind of have the same name as the original, and to just kind of be like, all right, let's make a new Wrong Turn. To me, like, this is a much more unique thing to do, and it was so totally unexpected. I didn't. There's a lot of aspects of this movie I did not expect at all.
I mean,
especially in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, the second half, you have Jen with her boyfriend Darius, and he's a urban planner. And you find out that when Jen is escaping the Foundation with her father to go back to the mainland, she goes over to her boyfriend, is like, let's go. And he's like, I'm not leaving. Like, I've found, like, these people need me.
Yeah, he literally
like,
said, these are like my people. Like he found those, because like, and that's another thing that's interesting about this movie. There is definitely a lot more like social commentary in this movie compared to the original. Like, there's even a scene when you're right, her boyfriend is talking about how, like, he wants to value people based on their work, not just their paychecks or the color of their skin. So there is like some more social
foreshadowing.
Which again, like, I there are aspects of it where I think it's kind of not like forced, but it doesn't really go anywhere. Although I think that scene makes a full circle when he's like, no, like, I finally found my people. That was like a good character moment, because they could have just had a moment where he stares off. He has to think about it. He's like, all right, you're right, let's go. But instead, no, it's like, fuck that. I'm going to stay here and be with all these crazy people. And like, I thought that was cool.
Super interesting. And I think, so there's one part of the movie that makes me very uneasy. That's been hard to watch every time I've watched the movie. Most of the movie is not disturbing. I mean, some of the kills are brutal and there's some gory deaths, but a lot of the kills are also not like intentional kills. I don't know if that makes it any less, but like a lot of them are not brutal. There's the tree that is just sent out there to hunt animals, and accidentally these people go off not accidentally, but they go off the path and get killed. So I guess my kind of question is, or my thing is this, is you have the boyfriends in the movie, Gary and Lewis. Gary's the one who gets killed by the tree. I thought this was the most fucked up. And then one kind of comical part is Lewis, Darius, and Jen are the 3 survivors. Because Darius technically doesn't die. Lewis,
Right.
Darius, and Jen are the 3 survivors, and they get pulled into the Foundation after the other people get killed in the Foundation. They get pulled in the Foundation, and then basically the Foundation, anybody who goes off of the grid, goes off the grid into their territory, they blind them and they throw them into this dark tunnel and cave so they can be cleansed of the evil of civilization in modern times and all of this and all of that, and they think they're doing good, and that part's very fucked up.
Oh, yeah, that scene is fucked up. And so
Lewis gets his eyes burnt out, and then
Yeah.
as the boyfriend Darius is about to get his eyes burned out, Jen's like, wait, we can help your civilization. And the Foundation is like, okay, cool, you guys come with us. And all I can think about is like, if Jen said that 30 seconds ago, Lewis would have survived and lived with them and grown crops and could have escaped with Jen. But like 30 seconds it took her to come up with that idea. He got his eyes burnt off and thrown into this tunnel with everybody else. And like that part was super fucked up. And all I'm thinking of is like, Lewis probably heard that. He just got thrown in the cave and he's probably like, really, Jen? Like, really? Like,
yeah.
But
He's
that,
like, "Now I can't see shit." And yeah, like
that-
but
that-
also,
that
seems
part
great.
of the movie where Jen and her dad are escaping. They go past Darius and they leave to go back to the mainland. They escape through that tunnel, and you just see, I guess that's the only similarity. You see that the people in that cave are now cannibals because they have to be.
Right.
And they're feeding off of other people who died in there. And she walks up to Lewis, and he's blind now. I mean, no eyes. And he looks up, and you can tell that he knows it's her. And she shoots him and kills him and puts him out of his misery. And like,
which was another ballsy scene, because like I was thinking, like, right when I saw that, I thought she was gonna like reach out and like grab his arm and drag him out, but I'm
come
like, no,
with
like,
us. Like, we'll try to save you. I'll come back for you or something. Yeah.
but he's too far gone. And also, like, that scene, honestly, I think that scene fucked me up more than any other scene, because
100%.
right when they get down there, not only is it just this like dark, creepy cave, but there's like a lot of people down there who, you know, were exiled, and like so it's just all these blind people moving around in this dark tunnel, eating whatever they can. I'm like, yo, that's scary as fuck. Like,
and the cannibals you see when they leave the cave, you see a bunch of people just eating one person's body, and like that's where you wonder how the Foundation is. You know, are they actually? Was this justifiable? Was this what they did back in the 1800s to people who, you know?
Well,
but,
I will say, I like earlier how you, because I didn't even make this connection. I do like how you made that Cannibal Holocaust kind of comparison, because you're right. Even in that movie, the main protagonist very clearly questions, like, I think the end of that movie, literally, he's like, are we the bad ones, or are they the bad ones? And
yeah, as he's walking through New York City, the concrete jungle, yeah,
it's kind of a fun thing to think about in this case, because like clearly the Foundation does a lot of things wrong, but they're also this completely self-sufficient civilization, just in like the middle of nowhere, like Virginia, you know, and they're able to just like have all these people, and it's like, you know, and again, like, they weren't even they had no intention of even killing any of these guys, or even putting them on trial until Adam killed somebody.
There were just signs that said no trespassing, don't go off the grid, and then the main characters go off the grid, they get killed by the hunting equipment, and I mean, and that's how everybody else dies. The dad winds up getting a couple people in town and pays them to take him up to get his daughter, and those 2 guys die instantly when they step in the woods, just on a bear trap, like not getting killed by. It reminds, have you seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil?
Oh no, that's one I have not seen yet.
Very similar to that, in the sense that it's wrong place, wrong time, and everybody getting accused for something that just other people stumbled into. Anyway, we're gonna wrap up here, but we have to cover the end of this movie first. The end of this movie, she gets back on the mainland with her father. Do you remember the line? She gets back on the land. She ends up working with her father. Their construction, I think they run like a construction company or something, and she works for him, and she's closer with the stepmom and the siblings, And she says to the dad, "Oh, I'm coming over for movie night." And he's like, "What'd you rent?" And she goes, "Oh, just some dumb teen movie with cannibals." And that was like a great nod to the
It
first
was.
movie. Another
I grinned
similar
so hard
universe.
when she said that. Yeah.
But that's not the end of the movie. You think that that's the kitsch last kind of line, but then as she's at the dinner table with her stepmom and siblings, the main bad guy winds up coming back into town with Ruthie, and they come back into town, and you do find out that Jen is now pregnant with his baby, because in order to survive the Foundation, she winds up, offering herself to the main leader. They have a relationship. She gets pregnant. He doesn't know that, and then he shows up, and in that scene she tries to kill him, and he kills the stepmom and the two siblings, and then the stepmom's face is all distorted, and she goes, "Jen, what are you waiting for?" And it was all the dream sequence that Jen had. She had dreamed that she was going to kill him, and it all reversed. So then she looks at him and says, "I'll come back with you to the Foundation solely on the fact that you leave my family alone now that you know where we are, and you never come back again." And him and Ruthie pretend that they're like friends with the dad, and the stepmom has no idea what's going on. So she goes out and she gets in the RV, and as the RV is driving off, not even post credits, while credits are rolling over the scene, she's riding off in the RV with like 4 or 5 of the main bad guys, and you see the RV swerve and go through a stop sign and crash, and you see her jump out of the RV and brutally kill
Yeah,
everybody.
stab that one dude like 50 times in the middle of the street in broad daylight. And
Yep.
then with the little girl, they just walk away right into the frame.
That's
And
the
it's all,
whole ending. Yeah, her and
and
Ruthie
it's
walking
all
away in
one
slow
shot.
motion.
It's all one shot, which is impressive too, because the car actually it's a real crash. Like that's a real like crash they and honestly, like I really liked the movie. That scene alone was like, all right, this movie's
I have
fucking
the chills.
legit.
Like,
Yeah,
you get
it's
jealous
so
that you'll
badass.
never watch that for the first time again. When you show it to other people, you're just sitting there and you're like, what are they going to think of the end? What are they going to think of the two twists at the end?
Yeah. And
It's
like, and also, it's a great twist
fantastic.
that Venable, that's his name, I believe, shows up again, and and again, it's a great scene because she's just staring at him like while she's with her mother, while he's with her mother and the two kids, and she just knows who he is. He's pretending to be somebody else, so that's a great twist alone. And then yeah, that after because they show it cuts the credits only for a second, only cuts the credits to show the title, and then it cuts back to that scene where you see them driving away, and then it crashes. But what a scene, man! Like honestly, like one of the coolest shots of the entire I've seen out of any movie this year.
I
So
think
cool.
definitely, and I think to explain it too, Venable, he shows up with Ruthie and says, "Hey, we're friends of your husband. When's he coming back?" And he just sits down and has dinner with the stepmom and the brothers. And I think that explains the difference between this movie and the original Wrong Turn, is that these people who live off the grid look like anybody else. He's not disheveled. He's not overly, doesn't have a big beard and ripped Flintstone clothes. He just like walks into their house and is like, "I know your husband." And she's like, "Cool, have dinner." And I
Yeah,
think
he's got the dad bod and all. Like he just
yeah,
looks like any
yeah.
normal dude. Yeah.
Yep. Super interesting. So we recommend this movie. Wrong Turn, I rented on Amazon today, the 2003 one. Tons of sequels if you do want to watch them. Warning, they get more low budget but more gory as they go. They'll still stick with you. Bunch of sequels, and then the new one, 2021. Where did you wind up watching that?
I think rented it just on Amazon.
So I think it's free through Amazon or something right now.
Yeah, there is some subscription based thing through Amazon. I think you can rent it. You can get it for free technically if you have the service. But I just ended up renting it. But honestly, like, yeah, if you're looking for something a little more subversive within this genre, the new Wrong Turn, absolutely check it out. And even go back to the original. The original, I might watch this again this holiday season because I watch horror movies every single day now, and it's like it's a good one. Like they're both so unique, and they have similarities, but they are very different, and but still great horror movies for sure.
Also, I just signed up for Shudder. It's free for a week, but if you use the promo code Film Theory, you get it free for a month. So Tom and I will
Nice.
definitely be watching some Shudder this month as well. Although next week, I think Halloween might just be in theaters. I'm not too sure. Maybe HBO Max as well.
Halloween Kills. It's
Yeah.
on Peacock.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So Halloween Kills, the theaters are on Peacock. So yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna be. I'm super excited. We're talking about a new release, and obviously Halloween is such a great and beloved franchise, so it's gonna be really fun to talk about those movies.
And Antlers comes out finally. I've been waiting 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
Comes out I think October 29th.
It
So
looks so
once
good.
again, if you return to theaters, make sure it's safe. Be safe, of course. Check out these wrong turns. Yeah, I mean, we're Weiliotis Podcast. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at either the Weiliotis Podcast or Weiliotis Podcast. Our website, theweiliotispodcast.com, will tell you where to find our podcast. We're on YouTube as well. So definitely check this out. Check out the movies. We'll be doing more horror all month long. Follow us on social. We have some cool little stuff coming your way. Do you have any parting words for either of the Wrong Turn movies?
Parting words. I don't know. Like I said, they're just two really good. Like for their time, like and especially the original, they capitalize on these certain fears of being lost in the woods, of running into something you never expected so well. And again, they both hit those marks for different reasons. But yeah, thank y'all for listening as usual. We appreciate
you.
it. Until next time, peace, y'all.